Steam is going crazy with deals again, and right now some of the biggest games on the platform are dropping to absolutely ridiculous prices. We're talking massive AAA shooters at 95% off, huge franchise sales, co-op games you can play with friends, legendary classics, and even a couple of titles you can permanently add to your library for zero cost if you act fast. And the best part is these aren't random filler games. These are actually great titles that are absolutely worth playing, especially at these prices. So today I've put together a fresh list of some of the best Steam deals you definitely shouldn't miss right now. Let's start with something huge, because right now the entire Battlefield series is sitting at a massive 95% off, which is honestly one of the biggest discounts we've seen on these games in a long time. First up is Battlefield 1, and this one is still widely considered one of the most atmospheric shooters ever made. The World War I setting, the chaotic large-scale battles, the incredible sound design, and those cinematic multiplayer moments where everything explodes around you, it still feels epic even years later. At 95% off, it's an absolute no-brainer if you enjoy massive online shooters. Next up is Battlefield 4, also sitting at a huge 95% discount. Even though it's older, this game still has a very active community, and many fans consider it one of the best modern Battlefield experiences. Huge maps, destructible environments, vehicles everywhere, and that classic sandbox gameplay where every match turns into complete chaos. If you've never experienced Battlefield at its peak, this is one of the best entries to jump into. And next we have Battlefield 5, also dropping to 95% off. This one takes the series back to World War II with improved movement, smoother gunplay, and some really beautiful maps. The battles feel intense, the visuals are still impressive, and the gameplay is much faster and more fluid than many older entries in the franchise. For this price, it's a great addition to your library. And finally, in this lineup we have Battlefield 2042, also discounted by a massive 95%. The game had a rough launch, but after multiple updates and improvements, it has become a much better experience. Massive maps, modern weapons, huge player counts, and chaotic battles where helicopters, tanks, and soldiers collide all at once. If you ever wanted to try the newest Battlefield without paying full price, this is definitely the moment. Next up is a completely different kind of deal, because Deponia is currently sitting at a full 100% discount until March 16th, meaning you can add it to your library permanently while the offer lasts. This is a classic point-and-click adventure with a hilarious story, quirky characters, and a very distinctive cartoon art style. The humor is absurd, the puzzles are creative, and the whole world of Deponia feels like a strange, chaotic sci-fi comedy. Even if you normally don't play adventure games, it's absolutely worth grabbing while it costs nothing. And if you enjoy that style of game, there's also the Daedalic Armageddon bundle. And next we have A Way Out, also dropping to 90% off. This is one of the most unique co-op games ever made. The entire experience is designed specifically for two players, where you and a friend escape prison together and go through a full cinematic adventure filled with action, puzzles, and story moments. The split-screen presentation constantly changes depending on what each player is doing, which creates some really cool gameplay situations. It's short but extremely memorable, and it's one of those games that is best experienced with a friend from start to finish. Next we have the Star Wars Triple Bundle, currently discounted by about 91%. This bundle includes three major titles: Star Wars Squadrons, Star Wars Jedi, Fallen Order, and Star Wars Battlefront 2. That means you get a full single-player Star Wars adventure, a massive multiplayer shooter, and a space combat simulator all in one package. Jedi Fallen Order alone is worth playing for its story and lightsaber combat, and Battlefront 2 still delivers huge cinematic battles across famous Star Wars locations. For this price, it's honestly an incredible bundle for any Star Wars fan. Up next is Need for Speed Unbound, currently sitting at a huge 90% off. This is the newest entry in the series, mixing classic arcade racing with a really stylish visual presentation that blends realistic graphics with animated effects, street races, police chases, car customization, and a pretty big open world make it a great option if you just want pure racing chaos. The handling feels fast and responsive, and the whole game has a lot of personality. And next we have Need for Speed Heat, also at 90% off. Many players still consider Heat one of the best modern Need for Speed games. During the day you compete in official races to earn money, and at night the illegal street races begin, where the police become extremely aggressive and every escape feels intense. The progression system, car tuning, and nighttime atmosphere make this one incredibly fun to play. Moving on, we have Titanfall 2, again dropping to a massive 90% discount. This game is legendary for two reasons. First, the single player campaign campaign is widely considered one of the best shooter campaigns ever made, with creative levels, amazing pacing, and memorable mechanics like time-shifting missions. And second, the multiplayer combines incredibly fast movement with giant mech battles. Even years later, Titanfall 2 still feels fresh and incredibly fun. Next up is Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2, currently sitting at a huge 90% discount. This game takes the classic Plants vs Zombies universe and turns it into a colorful third-person shooter packed with chaos and personality. You can play as dozens of different characters, each with their own abilities and playstyles, from explosive plants to ridiculous zombie soldiers. The maps are bright and creative, the combat is fast and chaotic, and there are tons of modes to keep things fresh. Whether you jump into multiplayer battles or just explore the hub world and complete challenges, it's one of the most fun and accessible shooters out there. And next we have the Shadow Warrior Trilogy, currently discounted by about 86%. This bundle includes the modern reboot trilogy along with the classic version, giving you several full games filled with fast-paced action and over-the-top combat. You slice through enemies with katanas, blast them apart with ridiculous weapons, and move through beautifully designed levels inspired by Japanese mythology and cyberpunk themes. The series is known for its intense gameplay, crazy humor, and satisfying combat system, and grabbing the whole trilogy at this price is honestly a fantastic deal. Moving on, there's also a Dead Space franchise sale happening right now, and it includes some really strong discounts. The newest Dead Space remake is currently sitting at about 85% off, which is an incredible price for such a high-quality survival horror experience. The atmosphere is terrifying, the sound design keeps you constantly on edge, and the redesigned visuals make the USG Ishimura feel more alive and more disturbing than ever before. And if you want to go back to the original classics, Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 3 are both around 80% off as well. Dead Space 2 is still considered one of the greatest survival horror games ever made, with incredible pacing and unforgettable set pieces. Dead Space 3 leans a bit more into action, but it still delivers plenty of intense moments and expands the story in interesting ways. If you enjoy horror games with strong atmosphere and brutal combat, this entire franchise sale is definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have Unravel and Unravel 2, both sitting at around 85% off. These are beautiful puzzle platformers where you control a small character made entirely out of yarn. The environments are inspired by real Scandinavian landscapes, and everything from the lighting to the music creates a very calm and emotional atmosphere. The puzzles revolve around using your yarn to swing, climb, and connect objects in creative ways. Unravel 2 even adds co-op gameplay, which makes it a fantastic experience to play with a friend. These games are relaxing, visually stunning, and absolutely worth picking up at this price. And next we have The Suicide of Rachel Foster, currently sitting at a huge 90% discount. This is a narrative-driven psychological thriller set in a massive abandoned hotel in the mountains. You explore the building during a snowstorm, uncover secrets from the past, and slowly piece together what actually happened to Rachel Foster. The game focuses heavily on atmosphere, storytelling, and tension rather than action. As you move through empty hallways and dark rooms, the sense of isolation and mystery keeps building. If you enjoy slower, story-focused experiences with a strong atmosphere, this is definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have Submerged and Submerged Hidden Depths, both currently discounted by about 90%. These are peaceful exploration adventure games set in a flooded city slowly being reclaimed by nature. There's no combat here. Instead, you explore the world by boat, climb abandoned skyscrapers covered in vegetation, and uncover fragments of the story through environmental storytelling. The atmosphere is calm, the music is relaxing, and the entire experience feels almost meditative. If you're looking for something slower and more relaxing between bigger games, these titles are perfect for that. Next up is Shadow Tactics, Blades of the Shogun, currently sitting at a huge 90% discount. This is one of the best modern tactical stealth games ever made. You control a small team of specialists in feudal Japan, each with completely different abilities. One character can silently eliminate enemies, another can set traps, another can disguise herself, and the whole game revolves around carefully planning your moves. You study enemy patrol routes, coordinate attacks, and execute perfect strategies in real time. It's incredibly satisfying when a complex plan finally works exactly the way you intended. Next we have Beat Cop, also sitting at 90% off. This is a retro-style adventure game where you play as a police officer trying to clear his name after being framed for a crime. The pixel art style is fantastic, and the gameplay mixes investigation, dialogue choices, and managing your daily duties on the streets. You can issue parking tickets, steal deal with criminals, help citizens, or sometimes bend the rules depending on the situation. The humor and storytelling give the game a lot of personality, and it's a great pick if you enjoy story-driven indie titles. And next we have Remnant, From the Ashes, currently dropping to a massive 90% discount. This is an action shooter that mixes Souls-like difficulty with third-person gunplay. You explore ruined worlds, fight huge bosses, and collect weapons and gear while trying to survive against deadly enemies. One of the best parts is that the game can be played entirely in co-op, which makes the intense battles even more fun with friends. The world design, boss fights, and constant sense of danger make it a really memorable experience. Up next is Back 4 Blood, also sitting at 90% off. If you enjoyed classic co-op zombie shooters, this one is definitely worth a look. The game focuses heavily on team-based gameplay, where you and your squad fight through huge hordes of infected while completing objectives and surviving intense encounters. There's also a card-based system that changes gameplay and adds replayability by modifying abilities, enemy behavior, and mission challenges. With friends, the chaotic battles can become absolutely wild. Moving on, we have Murdered Soul Suspect, currently 90% off. This is a very unique detective game where you play as a ghost, investigating your own murder. Instead of traditional combat, the focus is on solving mysteries, exploring the town of Salem, and uncovering hidden clues from the spirit world. The supernatural setting and detective gameplay create a really interesting mix that you don't see very often in games. Next is Ruiner, also dropping to 90% off. This is a fast-paced cyberpunk action game with brutal combat and a very stylish visual design. The gameplay is intense and aggressive, with quick dashes, heavy weapons, and brutal melee attacks as you fight your way through enemies in a futuristic city. The neon-soaked environments and electronic soundtrack give the whole experience a really strong atmosphere. And next we have Alice Madness Returns, currently sitting at about 80% off. This is a dark and twisted reimagining of the classic Alice in Wonderland story. The world is surreal, disturbing, and visually unforgettable, filled with strange enemies and bizarre environments. The game mixes platforming, combat, and exploration while telling a psychological story about Alice's troubled mind. Even years later, it remains one of the most unique action-adventure games ever made. Up next is Far Lone Sails, currently at a huge 90% discount. This is a quiet, atmospheric adventure where you travel across a dried-up ocean in a strange mechanical vehicle. You manage the machine, solve environmental puzzles, and slowly move through a mysterious world that tells its story almost entirely through visuals. It's a short but very memorable experience that focuses on atmosphere and exploration rather than action. And before we wrap up the list, there's also a free giveaway happening right now on Epic Games Store. The World War I shooter Isonzo is being given away there until March 19th. It's a tactical multiplayer shooter focused on realistic battles, historical weapons, and teamwork across large battlefield maps. So if you enjoy military shooters, that's definitely something you don't want to miss. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. And if you're still not subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe because we're already getting really close to 8,000 subscribers, which is honestly amazing.